All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is Tuesday, October 2nd. You heard that right, it's Tuesday. This podcast is officially one day late. One day late. I think I've only been late like 2 times in over 6 years, and it just it all caught up with me yesterday, man. I got to New York City, and I go, I'm going to put this podcast up. And as I was sitting here doing a little editing, boom, I was done. I fell asleep and woke up today, and it's Tuesday. And I could tell my body was like, what are you doing? You're fucking not sleeping. You're not eating right. You're burning it up. It's time to sit down, son. And that's exactly what I did. Oh, anyway, it's going to be worth the wait. I'm telling you, this episode is absolute fire. My guest today is a full-blown rock and roll Hall of Famer, legendary Nancy Wilson from Heart. And I mean, I don't throw that word around, legendary. But this woman is an absolute rock and roll legend and an honor to have her on. I cannot even believe it. I tried to get her on for 2 years, and it happened on Sunday. I want to thank Chris Joyner, my old friend Chris Joyner, which this is how great things happen sometimes. I'm in Hollywood, me, Billy Rowe from Rock and Roll Relics, and we're out having a coffee. It's 8:30 at night. I said, let's get a coffee, and we go to the Starbucks on Sunset and whatever. I never remember the cross streets, and I've lived there 19 years, but I think it was like Highland or something. Anyway, we're in the Starbucks. I see Chris Joyner, who is an incredible keyboard player, and haven't seen him in probably 10 years easily. And I said, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, hey, and we start catching up. And he goes, yeah, I'm playing with Nancy Wilson. And I go, oh, God, I want to get her on the podcast. He's like, you got a podcast? I go, yeah, dude, it's huge. Check it out. I'm showing him the guests and stuff. And he immediately hits her up, and she hits me the next day, and boom, she's on the show. So sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens magically like that. So thank you, Chris. And most of all, thank you, Nancy, for having me out to your place and sitting down with me for a couple hours. It's just, I could have talked to her for hours. I love Heart so much. When I was growing up, they were just such a massive staple in my collection of just that 70s riff rock with incredible songs. You know, I saw him at Dan the Green in 1981. We talk about that here. That was the first time I saw him, and I've seen him many times after that. And I just love their songs, man. Barracuda, Kick It Out, Straight On, Dog and Butterfly, Dreamboat Annie. It's just Magic Man, Crazy on You. These guys, they blew it up, man. They know how to write a rock song. And then in 85, they have that kind of what I call Mach 2 explosion, where they're just huge again with These Dreams and Alone and What About Love. I mean, they sold over 35 million records. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They sang Stairway to Heaven in front of the Led Zeppelin members at the Kennedy Honors. Incredible. God, I love this episode. Before I get into it, speaking of rock and roll, you might want to get yourself a Heart shirt or a Day in the Green shirt or any kind of vintage rock shirt that you've always wanted right at Wyco Vintage. Maybe you had an old concert shirt that you wore to death that just shredded off your body and you wish you had it again. Wyco Vintage can find it for you if they don't have it. Go to wycovintage.com and check out over 3,000 vintage rock and roll t-shirts for sale right now. They drop 50 new ones every Friday on their Instagram, so check that out. And use the code DELRAZOR for a discount. Maybe you also have a collection you want to sell. Who knows? Maybe you've got a large collection of t-shirts that don't fit you anymore, rock and roll vintage shirts. They'll buy them. They'll buy them right from you. They'll buy all your rock and roll memorabilia. Check them out, wycovintage.com. Use the code DELRAZOR. Go to them right now. Before I do get into the episode, I just want to give you guys a couple cool heads. I want to give Joe Rogan a massive thank you and a shout out. His podcast, or not his podcast, but his brand new Netflix special's out today. And, over the weekend, I did something I will never forget. I didn't do it. Bill Burr did it, and I got to be part of it. But I got to open for Bill Burr at the LA Forum, and I think that's why I crashed so hard yesterday. I was just cruising on a natural adrenaline high. This is no bullshit for about 3 fucking days. I mean, it was insane. To play the LA Forum sold out. Bill Burr sold that motherfucker out. Man, I'm talking to the rafters to see that legend walk on stage and tell 2 hours of jokes. It was insane, and I got to be a little part of that. But during the day while we were there, we had some equipment delivered, and we jammed in there like if we were a rock band. So it was double fantasy, as Yoko Ono, John Lennon would say. It was a double fantasy come true. So we set up the gear and we jammed, and while we did it, we played Whole Lotta Rosie, and I shot it on video on my phone, a little 360, and I put it up on Instagram. And Joe Rogan, he retweeted it and put it on his Instagram saying, "Holy shit, Del Rey can sing." And the thing has almost 700,000 views, man. Oh my God, my Instagram's been going crazy for 3 days. So, I just love when, I just love that happened. I can't thank Joe and Bill enough. I just love the comedy community, man. I absolutely love the community. When, people, they're just good people. Anyway, I mean, that's what I'll say about it. And if you listen to my bonus episode, I'm going to get way into the LA Forum on Thursday on Patreon. If you're not listening to the bonus Let There Be Talks, they're available on patreon.com/Dean Del Rey, and I'll get all into the LA Forum gig. It was a magic night, and I cannot say how proud I am of Bill, and I learned so much from him, work ethic and joke writing and performing and being a good person. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Joe. Check out that Joe Rogan special, Strange Times, on Netflix right now. Also, one last thing. Check out the new All Them Witches record. Wow. One of my favorite bands in the last few years. All Them Witches just tearing it up with a brand new record. Came out Friday. And I want to give a shout out to all the new Patreoners before we get into the episode. Evan, Huey, Tim Murphy, Michael Skeels, Hero Jr., great band, by the way. Follow them. Hero Jr., Ricky Conning, Michael Kane, and Tommy Cork. Thank you for donating to Patreon and getting these bonus episodes, keeping the candles lit. Next road gig coming up, Las Vegas. I will be there at the famous Comedy Cellar at the Rio Hotel, December 26th through December 30th. That's going to be damn cool. And that's all the road gigs I got right now for the rest of the year, other than being at the Comedy Store and the Comedy Cellar, back and forth, New York City and LA, all the rest of the year. Let's get into it right now. I absolutely love this woman. I cannot tell you how fired I am to share this with you. Fired up I am, fired up I am, fired up I am. Here we go. Nancy Wilson of Heart. Candles lit. episode of Let There Be Talk. Well, we got a legend on today. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Legend. Introduce yourself.
Well, hello there. I call myself Nancy Wilson of Heart.
Unbelievable, man. I've been listening. I'm 52. I never even knew this, but your band is 51 years old.
From like
67. Like, I mean,
no, 76.
But I'm saying the original kind of
from the very before the before.
I never knew about that.
Oh, yeah.
That way pre stuff. You know what I mean?
That's way before either me or Ann were
exactly,
in it.
But all that,
but they had the name going.
It was cool to read all that weird early stuff on that. Because to me, Heart, I'm 52. I remember I first hear, Magic Man.
Right.
And to me, Magic Man is just such... Of course, Barracuda is the next record, but Magic Man is really this song that came on, and it sounded like just 70s rock, It is the classic blueprint.
That's very analog sounding, Even today, it's kind of one of those, it's interesting to me since the time when we recorded that song and that album, the first album, Dreamboat Annie. You listen back, if you have a chance to listen back over the decades, it sounds very like clean,
Oh yeah, it really does.
No distortion.
Yeah,
it's just very clean, and it's not like the live version that it developed over the decades and stuff like that. But it's like, wow, how pristine is that sound? We wouldn't probably record that way now.
Yeah,
it sounds good though.
It's even if you think about bands that are considered pretty heavy, when you listen to early records, they're really clean, like AC/DC. Those tones are very clean.
Even Led Zeppelin.
And
you think of it like the heaviest bands in the world, that it was very distorted for the day, but it's nothing like, these days at all.
No.
It was cool to hear those guys and see the difference. Just compare.
Absolutely.
The sound getting, abilities. There's so many amazing ways to capture distortion nowadays that work,
Well, and everything is, before it was kind of amplified. So a Marshall turned up is just clean and it's breaking up the speakers. But then an Ibanez Tube Screamer comes into the game later on or something where it's artificially driving it.
Right,
and it gets way dirty.
Yeah, but contained.
Yeah.
In a contained sort of way. But, when you heard Led Zeppelin at the time, you were like, how did they get that sound? It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And the legend was that because in Britain, in England, the power was stronger than...
So the amps are burning hotter.
They're burning hotter, and they're more likely to, distort and burn up and explode and stuff like that.
Yeah, kind of like the... Eddie Van Halen messing with those, he's getting I read somewhere where he had a light dimmer. He rigged that onto it, kind of like a power soak.
A rheostat on his amp situation?
Yeah.
No.
Get that thing cooking, and burn up tubes real quick and catch on fire and stuff. But
just get the sound right before it breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I used to try to do that.
Yeah.
But then a few amps later, you're like, ooh, I don't want to keep buying these amps.
It's like, wow.
Right.
I actually, back then, remember you'd see an amp actually catch on fire on stage? Especially Ampeg SVTs.
Yes, that's right. We had a couple of guys in the early lineup of Heart that we were doing some... They were into the amp sort of designing business.
Yeah.
They designed some of these speaker columns that had sort of a paper thing inside.
Yeah.
And we were on a stage in Seattle at this place that was then called the Aquarius Tavern. And we started Barracuda, and the column caught on fire. And everybody thought, cool effect, that looks nice pyrotechnics. We're like, everybody out of here now. It's like,
after Kiss, people are like, oh man, they're up in their game. Yeah. They're going some pyro.
Exactly. We had some pyro for a little while. We had like a rollout campfire when we had the gypsy songs and stuff there during kind of that Little Queen era. And we do like the mandolin solo. It's very
Yeah.
Very Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And we'd kind of go around the fire pit, and it was glowing, and then the big part of the song would just, kick in, and the fire pit would explode with, the big, explosive, what do they call those?
Like flash pots.
The flash pot,
Yeah,
thank you.
those were the cool ones.
You'd have to kind of step away.
Oh, yeah.
Please step away from the flash pot before the flash pot goes. And each time they loaded the flash pot with just a little, however much.
A little more.
Gunpowder, and if they spilled it or put too much, it was like, really step away from the flash pot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that early flash pots and the early
the smoke.
the early
machines.
smoke that was the ice, dried ice. The
dried
way that
ice.
looked like on No Quarter on the movie, the way it rolls
Exactly.
off the stage like a waterfall.
Song remains the same.
The best.
I got to see Zeppelin a few times.
I wanted to
live.
talk to you about that because
Yeah.
I've had a few people on that have seen Zeppelin, and
Yeah.
Zeppelin and Skinner are the only bands I didn't really see. I've seen everyone, and
Wow.
everyone, man.
Yeah.
And I was just 1 year behind, They played their last show ever in Oakland in 77.
It's true.
At the Day on the Green, which is the first time I see you guys in 81,
Oh, wow.
4th of
Wow.
July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
But where did you see Zeppelin first and second, actually?
Must have seen them. Well, rock and roll
Yeah.
recollections can be
Absolutely.
a little blurry. But Seattle and I think LA were the two main ones. I might have seen them another time, sort of partially or getting there at the last minute. But they were just astounding. They just had such a direct line to that magical, powerful thing that was kind of the from the 70s. That was sort of the Tolkien-esque,
Yeah.
Merlin-esque.
Absolutely.
Guys on horses in Viking ships and through the fog and through the forest and the mist,
Yep.
and all that stuff. Actually, Song Remains the Same was just on last night when we were checking our channels, channel surfing. We watched it for a while. It was like, Jesus Christ, it's so corny today.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
But
here
it's a
comes
masterpiece,
Robert Plant, like just, on a ghost Viking ship, just standing there with no one staring, and he's just arriving, and as if by magic,
Yeah.
But it's so cool. It's such a timepiece too.
My favorite's the Bonzo one because it holds
yeah.
up because he's
Yes.
such a man's man. So it's drag racing.
Yeah, that's timeless
Yeah,
stuff.
timeless, right? Just drag racing to Moby Dick. Just,
Oh God, for sure.
know.
Just all of the muscular thing there. That was interesting to see it again, like way out of context, because it might have been since close to the time it came out since
Yeah.
I'd seen it.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
That long ago?
very long ago.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I saw it, it used to play all the time on the midnight movies.
Yeah.
So I'd go, and all the stoners would go. You'd
For
sneak your
sure.
booze in and get high and just
Where was that?
up in the Bay Area,
Oh wow, you
So
came from there?
Yeah. You were
wow.
born in San Francisco.
Yes,
I never knew this.
Yes, I was. Yeah, and my hubby Jeff was around that area for a long, long time before he moved out here.
Oh, really?
He went to England and then here, but he got to see all kinds of great music when he was there.
I saw it all.
Oakland.
Saw it all.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, he's reading a script in there, but maybe before we go, we say hi and go,
Yeah.
hey.
Who is your
Oakland.
husband now?
Jeff Bywater. He's my second husband.
Right. I know your first
of
one.
my life. Yeah, you know him.
Well, I don't know him,
You
but
know him.
I know his
Yeah.
work big time.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
I helped work on that stuff.
I know.
Yeah. He was like the head of music at Fox and TV and film
For song placement and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
Doing that for a long, long time, and then we're sort of starting a new thing together now. It's, kind of based around the Road Case Royale, productions type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's where the money's at now.
I guess so.
You know, and if
well,
you-
let's find out soon, I hope.
You were
I'll
born in
take your
San
word for it.
Francisco, but you don't remember any of that, right? You're just kind of
No, because I wasn't even 2 when we got on a naval battleship, and our family was went 2 weeks to Taiwan to be stationed there, because military family, obviously.
Right.
And so we all went over there. My mom, my 2 sisters, and me, as a baby, cruised over there on a huge battleship and met up in Taiwan with our dad. We're stationed there in what's the name of the town? I'm spacing it now, but my first memories are of water buffaloes and rice paddies and
Wow.
people with those
yeah.
hats and
You can remember that?
those earliest.
Wow.
And sometimes you kind of go, did I just see the home movies or did I really remember that?
Right.
But we were there almost 2 years, and so
Wow, 2 years.
2.5. So I grew up into that, and I guess I was speaking Pidgin Chinese before I spoke much English.
Wow.
There, so we were stationed all over the place, mostly in the States, but they went to Panama before I was born too. So.
Is that how you get into music? Because I know military bases, a lot of people are, there's a lot of music going on military bases because they're trying to, reminisce of home and stuff. So it's a lot of trading of rock and roll and all that,
We played at plenty of military bases along the way.
Yeah.
But when we started out as musicians, we came so honestly to it by just the fact that my mom and dad were both singers and players, and aunts and uncles were too, and grandma and grandpa were great singers from the church choir, and everybody loved music and everybody liked to sing along. And during family road trips we didn't fly anywhere till later, but we'd always have a song going in the car and making harmonies happen, and ukuleles on the beach and campfires. And it sounds too good to be true. And it sort of was.
It's almost Brady Bunch.
Kind of.
Partridge Family meets Brady Bunch,
but just like a really funny family with a lot of, musical comedy. We'd sing a bunch of old comedy songs, sort of vaudeville stuff or English pub songs that our grandparents knew.
Wow.
And even sort of off-color stuff. So it was fun to be a kid and learn those songs, like The Great Titanic, which there was a version we sort of knew, though you look it up now, there's a million versions, different verses, but it was just like an uproarious little, toe tapper, like where the chorus would be, oh, it was sad when the great ship went down to the bottom,
Yeah.
Husbands and wives, little children lost their lives. It was sad when that great ship went down. And everybody, yoo-hoo,
Yeah.
And
The simple times.
Strange little contradiction of mood swing thing there, but those were those times, and people made light of the hardships.
Yeah.
A lot in song. It was, swilling beer and all that stuff.
Do you remember the first rock and roll you heard? Was it Elvis, Beatles? What was it?
The first rock and roll I heard that I really felt was rock and roll, that wasn't Ray Charles, it wasn't Aretha Franklin or Peggy Lee or Garland, Judy Garland. It was probably Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock.
Wow.
And we had a box of singles that my sister kind of had collected and somebody had given her from before that, from the 50s. And so there was some amazing stuff in we had a record player, of course, and Heartbreak Hotel, I think, was the B-side or another single in the box. And it was so rock. It was back at the early times of Elvis when he was a rock star.
Yeah.
Before he...
The bloated 70s Elvis. But that early Elvis is just...
Stuff.
When you see that stuff...
Scotty Moore playing. And
Scotty Moore.
Those recordings.
Paisley Telly, and the recordings. And it's funny because it's really just... It's like rockabilly and soul and blues...
Exactly.
But then it was the haircut and the moves and stuff that
He
made
wanted to
it
be
dangerous.
like truck driver hair.
Yeah.
But sort of the southern, blues, back porch blues that he was privy to growing up in poor towns where the black folks were his friends, and so he broke all the mold there because he even moved his hips and everything.
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to happen then.
I know. Remember that? Just shoot him from the waist up.
Yeah, all that stuff.
That was really wild. Just to think about.
Censored.
I feel like sometimes we're going back to that. The way that the PC and the censorship is going these days,
Oh, I know.
And that's all because of advertisers, and that's the same. Back then, it was more because of Bible Belt and all that. The Bible Belt had power.
Yeah.
But now it's all about, Coca-Cola doesn't like this, so we can't do that. We need that money.
It's interesting how, those radical artists can be the ones that go indelible because, like John Lennon, for instance, he was really radical with his political, along the way with his politics, with Yoko and all that. But, and he, of course, became a martyr, but, people that kind of push the envelope, they can usually, I mean, if they're authentic to begin with and they push that envelope, I think they stick. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you get into Elvis, and then what's next? How do you get into a guitar and stuff?
Well, because the Beatles, of course.
The Beatles, of course. So do you see it on Ed Sullivan?
I did. I was little. I was like, 9? Something like that.
Yeah.
And it was appointment television. The whole family, the whole world was watching that. Kind of like the lunar landing, except,
of course.
The Beatles landing in the States. And somehow the excitement had just already got out. The album had already come over, and before they actually flew over to their first visit to the U.S. And so every teenage girl was already primed. Every boy that had a sister was primed.
Yeah.
And it was a madhouse. It was really cool. It was a cultural flash mob. You love that, when the culture does that.
I do too.
Because there's no real plan. It just happens.
Yeah.
And we just all had the same, lightning bolt of inspiration at the same time because it was so much more dangerous. Once again, pushing that envelope. Why do they have that hair like that? And what are those suits? And they seemed really, by today's standards, they seemed dangerous at the time then.
Oh yeah,
because they were sexy and
absolutely
not just cute. And so they were John was very manly, and they were cute, funny, but they are also very sexy and good.
Imagine that time period where one band completely explodes on one night.
I know.
One night.
Yeah.
You're just, the next day, America changes.
It's for sure. It was really a cool thing, like the moonwalk with Michael Jackson, or there's a few times, in America where, JFK's assassination or the actual lunar landing, where nobody was anywhere but watching that and reacting to that and being informed by that in the culture. And all those, I feel privileged, really lucky to have lived through the time of the Beatles and then everything that came after that.
Absolutely.
Because they became, in about 5 years, their whole message became super mind expanded into the 60s, into the later 60s, and then they even informed the 70s really, really well with their ethic,
Yeah.
and their sort of what they taught music, and how to, how music still continued to be more mind expanded, and even to a fault at some point or another, where it was like, oh, not another 5-minute opus, from some prog rock band with 1,000 different parts going by. But it was just so cool to see music mutating that way, and continuing to even now, because there's kind of a backlash even today of real bands, real players, real singers that are there too. But it's really hard, to kind of seek it out.
Yeah.
Greta Van Fleet's a
Yeah.
real band.
I think there's so many great bands right
Yes,
now.
I do too.
So many great bands.
I do too.
Greta Van Fleet being one of them, but also the unfortunate thing of what's going on with the business where they just only can put their energy into one band. Before, it was multi-machines.
Right.
Like 10 labels, all muscling their band,
they
their
all
Greta
used
Van
to
Fleet.
spend plenty of money helping bands develop.
Yeah.
And putting them on the road, getting their experience, allowing them, spending money on them to develop them in the studio as well as on the road.
Yeah.
And, not just imaging. That's kind of pretty much what takes over these days.
Well, it's just get the stylist in there, throw the outfit on them.
Something,
have somebody write the tunes.
controversial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like fake fights now,
fake fights.
Fake fights is really bizarre.
Jealousies in the press. And, just like people giving each other shit in the press.
Yeah.
And, it's so formulaic.
Yeah, it really is. It's really weird.
Yeah.
When you get a guitar, so do you start on guitar? Because I know your sister played drums.
She played a lot of bass.
A bass. Wow.
And some acoustic as well. A little bit of keyboards, As soon as we saw the Beatles, we were like, we need guitars. Like ASAP. And we begged our parents and we begged our grandparents. And Anne got the first good guitar that was even playable.
What was it?
In the family. It was a Harmony.
Oh, yeah. Harmony,
Acoustic.
Yeah.
I believe it had the nylon strings, so it was easier to play.
Oh, yeah.
And it stayed in tune. The first one I got was a $30 Lyle that had, like, the bridge at the bottom was not glued down.
Oh, the floating bridge.
The floating bridge.
Yeah. It's out of tune always.
The nut at the top was so high you couldn't ever.
Action way
too high.
The
action was way up. It was it wasn't even really. It was a plywood thing with no truss rod. So you'd had to tune it with the bottom.
By turning it?
By turning the bottom bridge, floating bridge. Oh, wait, the top strings are going on it too. I better shorten this end, And then figure out other ways to play F, because you could never bar the F on that guitar to save. I wouldn't be able to do that. But it taught me a lot. It was steel strings too. So I suffered for my art with that guitar in a very big way.
I think a lot of people give up because of their first guitar is so terrible.
Yeah.
It's weird when you're playing a really terrible guitar when you're first starting, and maybe you're taking a lesson, and then your teacher lets you play his guitar for a minute, and you go, oh, what? He's got like a Les Paul.
I could do
and
this.
You're like, wow, I don't even have to press my fingers down.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Now you're trying to figure out how to not to overpress your fingers.
Yeah, to press it out of tune.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, too much. It's such a finesse thing, guitar.
Yeah, it is. Well, the acoustic and the electric are two different animals, completely different animals, and the classical is another. And it's really an interesting thing. I mean, whenever I play with a lot of guys, if I go and play a show with guys, a lot of rock guys, a lot of bands have the whole band tunes down a half step.
Yeah.
Really often, and I'm like, really? Because it makes it easier to play?
I never knew.
Or sing too.
Sing, of course, but I never even knew about tuning down. It was always 440 for me.
Me too.
For years. And I really didn't know about tune down until really once that Seattle grunge thing hits and Soundgarden's tuning down to like B. B flat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
and
the strings are barely. They
were doing those baritone guitars with the even lower, down to C and beyond D for sure.
Exactly, but I didn't. I didn't even realize that Keith Richards was doing all those open tunings and stuff. Years ago until I was older.
With 5 instead of 6 strings, right?
Really
a cool sound. Well, I think didn't he get that from
Graham Parsons?
It was Graham Parsons.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know?
Because he could play all that real cool sort of dobro sounding stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
From doing that. Now it's the Keith Richards sound.
It really is. And as soon as you tune down to that and you start playing, you're like, everything's like,
it's all a
torn and
Stones
frayed.
song.
Yeah,
Right?
You get into the Black Crowes, and they're doing those tunings, and you really,
I know.
you're off and running.
Like She Talks to Angels.
Yeah.
That song.
It's great,
God,
right?
We got to play with those guys. They opened for us many moons ago. And those guys were completely, Chris, Robinson was completely cool. And his brother was a little bit of a persnickety,
Yeah.
Famously so. And they had a lot of tussles as brothers, but such a great band. I mean,
Yeah.
It's the Stones you get when you don't get the Stones.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The second and third record are just insane.
Yeah.
Southern Harmony and Amorica.
Yeah.
You get into that stuff. It's
I
like,
know.
wow. Once they get out of their initial, their influences and become themselves. That's funny that I think about that, because when I think about that first Heart record, it's riff rock, but and you know where it's coming from, but not once do I say, oh, this is like Zeppelin. Of course, you're a Zeppelin tasting band, but that your sound was so original, man. I mean, it's so incredible for the time when you're thinking about, like, no one had two sisters, women in the band.
No front women.
No front women.
That were not just sort of the ornamental lead singer type
I mean, you had
thing.
the Linda Ronstadt, but that was like...
But that's more like the front singer.
Right.
With a backup band. But
Right.
we always, for better and for worse, we always wanted like a democracy with guys in a band.
Right.
So we all contributed a lot to the songwriting. Mostly me and Ann did, but we brought them in like, okay, that's a good riff. Like, let's give them a piece of the song.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would do that anymore.
No,
these days at all. But it was a family, because we're sisters. We wanted a family vibe inside the band.
Yeah.
And
yeah, she's got a great French bulldog here, by the way, which all my listeners know.
Any funny sounds you hear, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. What's his name?
Gatsby.
Yeah.
But we call him Danny DeVito sometimes. Or Everett G. Robinson at other times.
I love French bulldogs, man. You don't even know. It's so funny that you have one.
Yeah, he's forever entertaining. Just put it that way.
Do you guys, when you start writing, so first when you get your instruments, you're just learning covers and stuff,
yeah,
right?
we were learning stuff all over the top 40 map. All of our favorite radio songs. And in those times, it'd be like Wichita Lineman or Cherish or crazy novelty stuff or, really square stuff that, like what? Who, like country, you'd have all kinds of crazy ass novelty music. But we learned all the pretty things and some of the Peter, Paul and Mary songs and some of the folk songs, Bob Dylan songs, and
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Still, for sure, that was a huge imprint. Moody Blues, and of course every Beatles song, and then we still go along. We're learning everything that came on the radio that was melodic and cool, and we tried to do Chicago, and we just learned everything that was popular.
And
we
was
made
it
business cards that said the viewpoints, pop music and popular ballads.
Oh, that's
Call
what it said?
Ann Wilson, at Sherwood 62790.
And it was just the two of you?
Well, it was the two of us, and we enlisted the help of a couple of singers from the choir and one other girl. Well, mainly two other singers or three other singers, and we were the players. So, a couple of all-girl lineups that were more folky than anything.
Right.
Poppy, folky. But once we electrified later on, we're playing with the guys by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Are you just like, you start to get a little bored, like we want to get rocking?
Well, Anne started to, well, she's 4 years older, so she started to meet some musicians that had equipment, and we didn't have any. We just had acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
So there's this guy over here that I met at this party that says, well, I've got a place to practice, and you're a good singer, so let's do something. And I was kind of 4 years younger, and my parents didn't really want me going to those party houses.
Yeah.
Or those garages or all of it. So we kind of ended up sort of splitting off, and she went to real bands, electrified bands, and they started getting gigs around town, Marine Corps, military bases.
Right.
And, and I kept on going. When I decided to go to university for a little while, I played a few years just on my own acoustically. That's not an easy task.
Super hard.
Yeah, all by yourself.
Did she have that voice like right away out of the gate, or was she taking lessons, or what was going on with that? Because this thing is massive.
Yeah,
it's massive.
She's a massively talented singer. It's a gift that she really has,
Yeah.
like a Chris Cornell kind of a gift.
Absolutely,
that she has.
I mean, it's never gone away either.
No,
even
yes.
when you look at that Kennedy honors,
I know.
it's so mind-boggling how hard you guys kill that. I mean, there she is, just murdering "Stairway to Heaven."
Yeah.
in front of the man who originates it. And
No pressure, right?
yeah, and he cries. It's so good.
And Jason Bonham was there, too, that had grown up with those guys.
And played with you guys.
And played with us, too. And I think there was an emotional element for those guys to see Bonham up there, too.
Yeah.
With us there. But with it, in Anne's case, her first kind of fledgling band, they just wanted to delegate her to the ballads only, and the other guys would do the Bowie songs or
And she just play tambourine or something.
She played tambourine and harmonies,
right?
And just play, sing the slow songs, and the other guys got to do Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, but they couldn't quite get to the Led Zeppelin pitches.
Yeah,
and she was like, well, I'll try it. And so she went, as soon as she started doing Robert Plant stuff, it was right in her wheelhouse.
Right.
And which is so interesting because that's where she took a foothold inside the band as more of the lead singer, because she was so versatile.
Yeah.
And she could do ballads too. And ballads, if you're a singer, are not the easiest songs to pull off. Either.
No, because it's stripped down.
Yeah.
And it's really and I think a lot of singers like myself, when early on you're insecure. So when it's low, you're like, oh no, like
if it's a low energy, you have to bring the energy.
It's all on you.
Yeah, exactly. That's
so
what it
then
is.
it's kind of you got to have that, and you got to have something.
You got to have
that brings you in to believe this ballad.
You have to figure out what persona that you bring to that song, without just imitating or being what do they call people that just do cover songs?
Right.
A cover person. But if you try to get some identity to it, attach some of your own identity to that song, that's a big deal to figure out.
Yeah, it really is.
As a singer, yeah.
It really is. That dog's great. You only got one?
We have another dog in the bedroom where Jeff's reading his script.
Uh-huh.
He's reading a third draft of a Muscle Shoals pilot script.
Oh, wow.
Because we're doing a Muscle Shoals series with ABC.
Wow.
Which we're about to lock it in with the script and start casting.
Is it an actual TV show or
It's a TV,
Wow.
it's a series.
About that time period.
The Rick Hall, kind of the producer at Muscle Shoals in southern Alabama, that produced all of those amazing, like the tiny town and the great big sound. It's like When a Man Loves a Woman and Aretha and
how great is that?
All that kind of stuff, and Wilson Pickett and all kinds of amazing.
Even Skinner.
Skinner came later.
Yep.
1 million people went down there for the magic of that place.
It's crazy. It's
And
still there.
Bob Seger, still
Yeah,
there.
Still there.
Same wood. Same.
Matter of fact, Jagger
Yeah.
recorded in there last week.
Did he?
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
with someone else who I forget who it was. But
Yeah.
he was down there for
We're releasing I wonder if he worked on that album. We're releasing an album by other people doing those Muscle Shoals hits.
Right. I
And,
think that's what it was. Yeah.
I bet that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So that's about to debut. And yeah, we're getting deep into the Muscle Shoals
That's
series.
cool.
Pretty
That's
soon
cool.
we'll be hopefully, cast up and shooting.
That sounds like something I should
And I'll be
on.
scoring. Yeah. I'll be scoring and, Jeff will be helping with the music space. Yes. Godspeed.
Let's talk a little bit about you and your sister when you start to write songs. I mean, you got so many great songs. When you guys start to write, are you writing a lot? Or like Dreamboat Annie is loaded with great tunes. Was there a ton of stuff before that just was not good? Or were you just magic out of the gate?
No, there was a ton of stuff that was not good.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of just dorky songs, like, wait, that's a clunky rhyme, or that word does not sing well, or that, the sentence doesn't really follow through, or that part is too there were all the things about
Beginner songwriting
trying to
stuff.
be a songwriter that you have to get over and past and still keep your confidence on. When you're listening to people like Paul Simon and Garfunkel, Joni Mitchell,
Right.
that's like, those are just maestros. Those are just masters of
Totally.
songwriting. And
Carole King.
Carole King,
Tapestry.
so many great songwriters that we were trying to, kind of emulate, but still find a voice. And, but, starting out, I mean, I think that we wrote some bad ones for a while, and then we kind of realized, okay, we have to work harder. And, I did a lot of Paul Simon guitar imitating, like I did a lot of that fingerstyle,
Oh, yeah.
acoustic, Paul Simon-esque guitar stuff. And I think that helped get me into the band Heart and bring a new sound into sort of the clubbish sound of the Heart before me, walking in. And Ann and I kind of had a plan, like we can write songs, we can bring the more melodic acoustic element into the band, even
Right.
though I already knew how to play good electric, but it was just another way to spread out the flexibility inside of the musicality of the band. And so the guys were like, no, 2 chicks, oh, great. We're going to have a bunch of sappy, soft songs.
Yeah,
with 2
soft rock.
chicks.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the mentality, really. It's
Yeah.
funny because, when you think about it, it was always and you could read an ad out of the recycler. It would be like,
right.
wanted, guitar player, long hair, good looks, a must have pro gear, no druggies, no chicks. It would just say no chicks.
Oh, really?
Like right in, like,
no chicks need apply.
Yeah, I mean, you
right.
remember, right? It was like,
Well, I don't remember reading a lot of
no, I mean, if you don't
those.
read ads, but I mean, that
Yeah.
was the mentality.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, of just like,
Yeah.
it's just the reality. It was such a man's world of rock and roll, you know?
Yeah.
And
kind of surprisingly for the day.
Yeah.
Even though the culture was already starting to shift and mutate and grow into a better, equal sort of understanding with men and women as equals.
yeah,
Just the equality idea of being equals in a band. But old cultural mores just die hard.
yeah. Well, it's such a cock rock world back then. It's
For
leather
sure.
pants, it's big bombs and sound, and it's like,
Yeah.
are you ready? And the people, I'm ready, and it was that kind of and it was really I don't know, I guess it was geared around like an offshoot of sports almost,
Yeah, right.
of that kind of thing,
Right. Yeah. I mean, There was the big high energy fist pumping,
I also
hair
think it's
flipping.
parents too were like,
Yeah.
you don't play dirty rock and roll to their daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's got to be something to that also of like how a daughter was brought up compared to a son. You know?
For sure.
Yeah. I mean rock and roll, you got to be in,
what
like you
girl
said.
is going to be able to kind of match that intensity
Yeah.
as a guy rocker would? And I guess that's part of the fallacy anyway. But not many girls actually, I don't think, would.
I thought
Even
it
then.
was bizarre because I thought Janis was so big and made such an
Yeah.
impact that I thought, well, the floodgates are going to open now.
I thought that a few different times. Janice was so R&B, or
Yeah.
sort of, soul, rhythm and blues,
Of course.
Southern R&B, and so incredibly good. I mean, you listen to Robert Plant sing.
Oh, yeah.
In those days, he took so much from Janice.
Same with Axl Rose.
Yes,
When you get
exactly.
into that, I mean, all that, Down on Me, all that, down on me.
Yeah.
It's just like up there and dirty. Yeah, all that.
Ma.
All that, exactly. I mean, that's a blueprint
But I
besides
thought her
Nazareth.
energy was so over the top and kind of, just, I guess you'd say a little bit toxic there. And she was I think she was a little she was a little scary.
Yeah.
She was on an edge that was kind of scary to watch, but it's really super impressive. But I don't think many women or girls would want to
Mimic that.
mimic that. They would want to respect it,
Right.
and love it.
Well, she was an outlaw and she was real deal.
She was really like the cutting edge of, the true kind of rebellious woman against society.
Yeah.
With all of her pain that she bared it all, and even beyond what seemed humanly possible at times.
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
But she was amazing. She was, kind of a force of nature in music. And I would have thought, too, that the floodgates would have opened and,
Totally.
there's a few here and a few there. But I think we're hardwired as men and as women to have our place in the family structure, and who's the nurturer and who has the kids and who stays home and
Right.
who goes out, who's a sailor and goes out, does rock music,
Yeah. The pirates.
sleeps with, tons of girls. Or
And,
whatever.
and in a van, though, the dirtiness
Pirates.
of it early on in vans,
Right,
and
well, there's no comfort zones.
zero
If you're
shit
a guy,
hotels,
you don't care.
no money.
If you're a girl, you care.
Yeah, I know.
That's funny.
When I want to always ask you about, I think one of the greatest heart songs that blows my mind was on the first record, is Sing Child.
Oh yeah.
I think it's one of the coolest, weirdest, powerful rock songs,
You know what's weird about that song is that it was kind of a piecemeal song with a really cool guitar bit from the guys. The guys in the band came up with the
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just thought, okay, we'll just put some words on it.
Yeah.
And so, we did the Sing Child Sing chorus, which is, I like that part the best
I love
of the
it.
song. But then the breakdown verses are kind of like, now you hear back on that stuff now, it's kind of like, ooh, we could have worked a little harder on those lyrics, but it still fits in a way. It just
I don't
fits.
even notice the lyrics because it's
just
so
the vibe.
powerful.
Yeah,
It's
the
just
vibe.
raw. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great song.
Yeah. No, there's songs that, along the way you kind of that grows on you.
Yeah.
Other ones you kind of like, okay, done with that one for maybe another year or two, but then you kind of discover something in the stash of songs.
Yeah.
Like Sing Child, we did that on was it an Access TV thing we did where we did the Dreamboat Annie album in its entirety.
On Access TV?
I think it was on Access, if
Wow.
I'm not mistaken. You might have to look around, but quite a few years ago we did that, and it was really cool to rediscover Soul of the Sea, some of those songs on there.
Oh, yeah.
And just some of those, like, album tracks.
Yeah.
That were not the hits.
I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, I started getting heavily back into vinyl.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, and I pick up Dreamboat Annie.
Yeah.
And I get home, I was like, I had this. Dreamboat Annie was the first Heart record I got. And I put it on, and I remember I was just kind of sitting on the couch, and it just fucking knocked me out.
Oh, that's so cool.
It just, the sound of that record, too.
Yeah.
Like, right now, it is, like I said earlier, it's the blueprint of like a 70s rock record. There's no dated weird sounds on it. It's just got this low end. If somebody said, why do you like vinyl so much? A lot of people will put on Steely Dan Asia.
Yeah.
They're going to put on Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
That's right.
But if you put on Dreamboat Annie, and you want to talk about like brown sound and round and the warmth of a vinyl record, it's right there on that record.
And all the frequencies between like the top, middle, low, mids, bottom, and really deep bottom. It's got the warmth and the spread of frequencies that, that's why it's called a what is it when you're a audiophile? Yeah, audiophile. Audiophile.
Yeah.
That record got like really rave reviews with audiophile everything else, and some kind of an audiophile award or something. And that there was that room in Vancouver, BC, where we recorded the whole thing, and we came back years later as the Lovemongers just to do something, and it was like, wow, this was our first real studio, big studio room. We walked in there again, it was like tiny, it was like this beautiful wooden space with a couple of isolation booths, nice decent sized control room, not as big as it seemed at the time, and all this analog gear.
You remember the board? Was it a Trident, Studer, or like Studer tape machine? But what was the board like? I
think it was a. God, I think it wasn't a Studer. It went to. I think it actually got sold from out of there. Damn, I'm spacing it. But it had tubes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of tubes.
Yeah.
And all the compressors and all the effects.
Was it 24 track, that record, or 16?
I think it was 16.
Wow.
To be honest,
just 16-inch.
I have to look it up to make sure, because it seemed like so many tracks for us. But I think 24 came later. Yeah. Because that was like 75.
Right.
When we recorded it.
That's wild, man.
That's probably why they sold the old board and put a bigger one in. You
remember how long it took you to record the record? A couple weeks?
We were doing gigs in town, around town, driving the van, to White Rock and various little dives around northwest Canada, and even further, further up, and we kind of piecemealed whenever we could get a day off between shows or a day before we had to go play shows, we'd be in the studio. So I think it was very piecemeal, but maybe 3 weeks tops. And there was nobody would sign us on any major label, record company label in America. We sent tapes and letters and cassette tapes and letters. And reel-to-reels, and to every major label twice, and nobody said boo, You
remember what songs were on there? Was like Crazy on You and Magic Man on there and stuff?
There were like demos of Magic Man, and there was a demo, Crazy on You, I think so, and then there was a couple of like sort of novelty cover songs, like, I wanna be your baby, kind of jazzy stuff.
Yeah.
And another song one of the guys in the band wrote that was kind of moody and, interesting. And just a real hodgepodge of demos. And of course, nobody wanted that, but the people that did want us were, especially Anne's Voice, were the little label run by like a paint mogul family in Vancouver
Mushroom?
that had Mushroom Records.
Right.
And they said, we'll sign her, but none of the rest of you guys. We'll just sign the girl who could sing. And she said no, to her amazing credit. She said, I'm taking my sister with me, and I'm taking the two main kind of founders, Roger,
right.
yeah, with me. And I think his brother Mike was the other one.
Was Mike the draft dodger?
Yes, he was the draft evader.
I couldn't believe when I was reading about that.
Yeah.
He like back then where they like
well, you'd have to.
They stormed your house. Like they came to his house.
Yeah.
He jumped out the back window or whatever and escaped up to Vancouver.
And it turns out years later that they had come for him illegally.
Oh, wow.
To begin with.
Wow.
And so he got the charges dropped, whatever. But yeah, he had to scurry out of his back window and run like hell across the border. And then he kind of snuck back down when his brother Roger was rehearsing with Anne, just to kind of check it out, because it's like, you got to see this girl sing, you know. And then Anne started to date Roger's brother.
Oh, I got you.
Michael. And then they fell deeply in love, like on the spot. And that's why she followed him up to Vancouver with a backpack and a guitar. And the rest of the band followed her because they were not going anywhere without that singer. So then I kind of joined in gradually up there.
So I always thought it was always Seattle, but as I read into it, it was Vancouver.
Well, we got our start there, and our first album was made there. And, you know, because the Vietnam War was so, excruciatingly terrible and such a dirty war.
Oh, yeah.
Even our Marine Corps retired father said, you know, he would never even recruit for that war anymore. You know, it was like embarrassing to have our first poster say, from Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Heart, you know. So we said, all the way from Vancouver, BC, it's Heart.
Wow.
And so we kind of put it out there that we were from Vancouver on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were embarrassed to be Americans at the time.
Wow, that's
sort of
wild.
like today.
Yeah, right. I love it. Sort of like today.
Not unlike today.
You guys, you put out the record, and then you have a battle with Mushroom Records over some weird ad between you and your sister, correct?
Yeah, somebody from I think it was in the record company, maybe, was a real sleazeball, and we were at a party, and he was like, "Hey, Anne, how's your lover?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, Mike, he's fine." She goes, "No, I mean your sister." Ha ha ha. And there was also like this kind of trade magazine where he'd put out this article with our two bare shoulder pictures from the album cover shot. It's like, sisters, you know, reveal it was only our first time or something, really like salacious. And so we were like, oh, really? This is not what we got into this business to do, you know, to be perceived this way. So we fought back, and we just didn't want that perception at all, because
amazing.
We felt so proud of the fact that we were writers and we were front people and we were players and doing something different instead of being, you know, held up as sex symbols or whatever, you know,
right?
Some kind of sensational bullshit that we just didn't want to be part of. And, you know, by today's standards, nothing, because like we were talking about before, that's all they try to get to now.
It's the only way.
Everybody tries to create that content now because it's
it goes all the way back to the Kardashian tape leak. Did it get leaked by her mom?
Oh, God.
You know, I mean, this is just lunacy of the world. But that's also geared around people that don't have any talent, and they don't write songs, and they don't play instruments.
Famous.
So how am I going to get famous?
Right, just famous for being famous, and
which is lunacy.
It really is. It's just it's pop culture fodder. It's an interesting thing about how a bottomless pit the media seems to be for that. But you know, I mean, oh come on, you know, it's in Hollywood golden era too. There was all this kind of, there wasn't quite as many personal details that were not hidden. I mean, there weren't so many tell-alls going on, but there was still a lot of big, splashy, sensational stories.
Oh, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
with the president. I mean, we can go back to that. It's
so
like
those are those things that when people, people fall in love with their entertainment figures and their beauty symbols of beauty and talent. And then, but Marilyn Monroe was very talented. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
Not a Kardashian.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a different thing. But I'm saying, as far as like, like media blitzes and drama and stuff,
it's out of control.
Yeah. Do you remember like how Barracuda comes together? Because Magic Man and Crazy on You are hits, but really what blows up the FM dial is Barracuda at the time. And I remember it was probably the second song I ever learned on guitar. And I was kind of like, oh, Barracuda, and I learned harmonics. Oh, it's a harmonic thing there. Yeah. I didn't know any of that, But do you remember how that song came together?
Well, I do.
Who wrote it? What's up with that?
Yes, I certainly do. We had been out opening in Europe for a band called Nazareth.
Oh, yes, the best.
The really great band.
Unbelievable.
Such a good band. And
Hair of the Dog tour? What record?
Well, that
Early
was when
70s?
they had This Flight Tonight was out.
Okay.
Which is a Joni Mitchell song they covered in a very heavy metal kind of way, which was and so we thought it was a really nice groove, and so our guitar player Roger sort of came up with a very, very similar groove, which was the groove for Barracuda.
Right.
And when we put it out, Anne wrote the song. The lyrics for the song mostly after that slime ball at the party.
Right, it's about him, right?
Sort of about him, yep. And we knew it was good, and we knew it sounded the guitar sound was amazing.
Oh.
The chain of effects that were going on, and the distortion, and just the presence of it, how it's just so there in your face, and it's really hard to recreate. I've actually tried to for various things, and it's very hard to recreate that exact sound.
It was just magic in the studio, right?
It was the air in the room, it was all that stuff. It was the dirt in the pickups, but so then the guy from Nazareth heard it. The guitar player from Nazareth, we were at a party later, and he was like, fuck you, man. He was like really pissed off at us for, just stealing, ripping them off for their groove.
No shit.
For Barracuda, yeah. And he was just not speaking to us after that. He laid it down and he walked away indignant. And
he picked it up right away, huh?
Pretty much. But I mean, I see why he'd be pissed off, but they'd had a hit with theirs, and we had another hit with a similar thing, and I think in rock and roll overall, there's everyone borrows.
Oh, we got it going right now with Stairway to Heaven.
Again,
I mean, they're going back to court. I just read today.
I saw that too.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, the intro is definitely very similar, but it's like the Fixing a Hole progression. It's the same. It's a very same progression that a lot of different songs do share, but that one does sound very similar. And the circumstances under which it was done, we're kind of suspicious for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think all good things borrow from each other.
Does that tarnish your look at Zeppelin at all? Because some people are
never.
never,
never in a million years.
I know, right? It's just Achilles' Last Stand. Tell me where that came from.
Oh, come on.
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Tell me where that came from.
The beginning of In the Light.
Yeah.
Whatever instrument that might even be. Yeah.
Rock and roll it's basically, it's all been done, and you need to figure out how to do it. Where it's not, of course, you're going to hear flavors,
Yeah.
But there's only so many chords in the rock and roll world,
Yeah, that's what I always say.
That you're going to play. I really loved Straight On for you, I thought that was, I mean, it was such a powerful tune, you know?
I love that tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. We do it with my new band, Roadcase Royale,
Yeah.
which we call Nancy Wilson of Heart with Roadcase Royale for many reasons, but for ticket selling reasons.
Absolutely.
But I love playing with my new band, and we do a different version of Straight On, and it still really works with a whole different reinterpretation. But, it's got a real heavy intro, and it doesn't have the super funky chicken thing. And we do even it up without the horn parts, and it's the same. We do a bunch
That's a great song.
bunch of heart songs in my new band too. Crazy on You, and Barracuda, and What About Love and These Dreams, and some nice songs. But it's just cool when you take a cool song and you reinterpret it, and it's still a good song.
Yeah.
And it's a mark of a good song. But I agree with you. I think there's only so many chord progressions, but it's like, James Brown used to say, it's not what you say, it's the way how you say it, And so it's how you play it and how you sing it. And each player's going to have his own emotional, imprint with that guitar, that amp, or that vocal, that phrasing, just enough out of tune right here, or whatever it is over there that's different and gives it its own persona, its own character.
I really feel that once Howard Leese comes in, I think that the band really becomes smoking rock, like really rocking, man. I mean, he brought something to the game.
He was so versatile as a musician, and he was a studio player in the studio in Vancouver, though he was not from Vancouver, but he was working as a co-producer in the studio with Mike Flicker, who did the first album with us, and a couple of things with us. And we said, would you please come out with us, because we just really need a more versatile player. We need somebody who can also play guitar or leads or sing or keyboards. And you don't find a lot of those guys around.
No. No way.
You don't find too many. They just don't grow them on trees.
No.
I mean, our mutual friend, the illustrious Chris Joyner.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys.
Absolutely.
He can do all that stuff in my band too. So it's it's so cool when you find a player, and then he went out for us for many, many years and was only just a gem inside that band.
When you start playing electric, a lot of electric, are you learning how to play, through a Marshall amp? Because it's totally a different animal. It's so hard to play through a Marshall compared to, playing acoustic,
Well, I'd already played a bit on electric because people liked the way I played. Just people would see me play and they'd go, here, have this guitar. You need this guitar. And they'd give me guitars. So, and I had a little amp, and I learned a little bit more about the different feel on electric, than on acoustic, because I always played with more kind of medium to heavier strings on acoustic, which is not at all how you play on electric. So, took me a while to, kind of find the balance with those two different animals, but playing electric in a big rock band with nice and loud was really fun. It gives you confidence you didn't know you had. It's like if I'm holding this big piece, this big machine in my hands, and I'm screaming into a room with it, that makes me so cool,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's got a power thing,
It's powerful.
What was the first great guitar you got? Was it a Les Paul and a were you Marshall or Fender or Peavey back then?
We had Music
Mans.
Bands.
Oh yeah, those are loud as shit.
Those are really loud.
Yeah, right?
Just try to sing when you're standing in front of one of those without inners. But yeah, we had Music Man, and we had a couple. I think we chained them up. We did maybe a Marshall, sometimes a double amp thing,
Yeah, stereo and stuff.
Stereo them. And, just for more volume.
Yeah.
More sheer volume.
That was the 70s thing.
For sure.
Just loud,
just
man.
Louder.
Oh, my God. I mean, Nugent was like
louder.
on 100.
Just ears bleeding.
Oh, totally.
Loud. Yeah. And but I had, well, me and Howard Leese traded. I traded him an old Les Paul Special.
Yeah.
For,
P90s.
Yeah, for his old 63 Strat.
Wow.
Red Strat that was on the cover of the Guitar Player magazine back then.
It was a factory red, like candy apple red?
Oh, yeah. It was the, like the a more deeper tone, burgundy-ish.
Oh.
Bright red, but not candy apple.
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah,
burgundy mist.
Burgundy mist. I guess that would be the name of the color.
That's a rare,
that you might know that.
Rare guitar.
Yeah, it was rare.
Yeah,
And
you still got it?
I actually did not end up keeping it because Paul Allen,
Yeah.
you know, of Seattle fame, and
Yep.
he's one of the great, entrepreneurs in this town of Seattle, and he's got a guitar collection, and
Yeah.
he did us some really huge favors, and so returning the favor for him, I handed over that guitar because it matched in his collection.
No shit.
'Cause he
That must
had
have been
the-
a big favor.
It was a big favor. Yeah. Stuff that, he has recording studios.
Yeah.
And so, he's just a supporter of the arts. And,
He is.
So I wanted to really lay it on him because he really laid it on us in a really beautiful way. But my favorite old guitar still now is the Blue Telly, the 63 or 2 Blue Telly.
Whoa. Lake Placid Blue?
Lake Placid.
Wow, I had a 62 Lake Placid Blue.
Yeah.
That was Alvino Reyes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. That Leo Fender gave him for Christmas.
Jesus.
And it came with a Christmas card and everything. It was wild.
Oh, man.
Sold that one to...
But that's a battle axe, too. It's
Yeah.
like you could...
Telly's
you could
incredible.
you could just... You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Decade after decade. It's been with me forever.
I was always interested in your guitars because you... I remember specifically you played a Les Paul that was called the Les Paul Light, and it was pink. And it was a Les Paul that was like a half Les Paul. Remember, it was a thin-bodied Les Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah, for a minute there, I might have forgot that. But, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of guitars have been given to me over
Yep.
time.
Yeah, yeah. And
I, the ones I end up using really the most in the studio or on stage I've ended up sort of paring those down after a while because
yeah.
how many do you need?
Yeah. How many do you got now?
Well, I'm not sure if I counted them because I've auctioned many off.
Oh, yeah?
That I never really ended up using. But you want to have your go-to family of guitars that fit for the studio, and the backup guy for that guy. And so I imagine I might have 50 or so.
Wow.
But that's cutting it way back from, and a lot of it were gifts,
You and Howard were playing Dean's early on.
Yes.
Now, do you remember how that happened? Because Dean was such an incredible company back then.
No, he was, we kind of endorsed some Dean's stuff, and he gave us a bunch of Dean's, and we played them in the videos. A lot of them.
You had the Baby Dean Explorer.
The Baby Dean.
Yep.
Yep. And, the pink one that I played on some of those videos were auctioned off for a pretty penny.
Wow.
Because they're in the video.
Yeah, yeah.
It matched my jacket, whatever.
Did you auction them off for charities or for money?
Both, for myself and for charities.
Were you out of money for a
honestly.
while?
Well, it's hard to come by.
Yeah.
I mean, Heart has always made really pretty good money as a band, but it's always hard to come home with good money.
Yeah.
Because you end up probably not running the show like a true shark ought to be running the show. We're probably more of a family ethic.
Right.
So we're more lazy about, well, we could probably just spend this over there and give these guys an extra raise and give everybody what they want. And, nobody's watching the store half the time. But it's, I got to say, though, it's looking really good for a Heart reunion tour.
Whoa.
There's a big offer up there on the table.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Does anybody know about that?
I've been sort of hinting at it when I do interview stuff. But I did end up, me and Ann are talking, so...
What happened
we
there?
keep talking. Well, there was
a family drama,
There was
right?
a family drama that was highly uncalled for and unnecessary, and hurtful.
Yeah.
And, it was just one of those things that takes time to get past. And so a couple of years have gone by. And, I'm ready. It's not anything that Anne ever did wrong,
Yeah, right.
or I ever did wrong.
Right.
But it's just one of those family dramas that just happen, and it just kind of it just kind of poisoned the atmosphere for a while there.
Yep.
And so it's good. I mean, it's just I have a real positive feeling about now that I'm communicating directly more with Anne. It's
Who reached out? You or her?
well, I've been sort of for a while, and but she was kind of busy and I think scared to talk.
Right.
And I kind of said, well, I'm not ever going to confront you about anything, but there is this huge offer on the table, so we should talk.
Wow.
Just the two of us, and so we're in that process right now. It's kind of exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something to talk about, because if you look at the history of siblings in bands,
Oh, yes.
they blow up.
Yeah, they
Right
do.
now we got the Chris Robinson and Rich Robinson, probably, what they say, never play again together. The Kinks,
That's a shame. The
Dave and
Kinks.
Ray, and
Right.
I think they're going to get back together from what I hear.
Maybe there's an offer on the table.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know.
It's and also both of you are alive, and
Yeah.
you
and there's a really nice, a wonderful legacy.
yeah,
To try to at least, if we're going to go out, it should be on a higher note,
100%.
than that before. So
But I mean, judging by Anne's voice, you wouldn't have to go out ever. I mean, her voice did not burn up, and you
Yeah.
can play guitar,
Yeah.
no problem.
I've got strong hands. I'm still good. I've worked out my little kinks in my, my cranky fingers once in a while. But
Over
I know
the
how
years,
to do
you
it.
get some carpal tunnel or
I
arthritis
get a
or
little
anything?
bit of knobby fingers.
Yeah.
A little more like a female Keith Richards, but not that
man,
bad.
he's got those crazy
No,
knuckles.
not like that,
I never
but-
seen anything like that.
Yeah. But I know how to work with my finger joints and warm them up before
Yeah.
I play, and it works fine. And I love playing. I don't want to stop.
You guys had a studio for a while in Seattle, Bad Animals.
Yes.
I
Studio
talked to Jerry
X.
Cantrell, and they did records
My
back.
buddy.
Yeah, back then they did records there, and they recently
Yeah.
just went back to that room because they felt they needed to go back. And talking about money, there was a point where you guys, I mean, if you look at your career, you're going along, it's pretty happy, and then there's this low in heart, and then 85 hits, and it's absolutely a massive heart year.
It's
And
right.
I mean,
bigger than
massive.
the first round.
It's unbelievable, and I
Yeah.
want to back it up here to put the level that Hart was at.
Yeah.
In '81, I said at the top of the interview, I saw you at Day on the Green. The
Right.
bill, and I brought this just for fun because I thought it would be great to show you, and we could reminisce real quick.
Okay.
This is how big Hart was in '81. First of all, this was the bill. This is the T-shirt. I got it. Hart was the headliner, and it's 65,000 people at the Oakland A's
Wow.
baseball park. Bill Graham, of course, the
Oh,
massive.
yeah, the very great Bill Graham.
Blue Oyster Cult was right under Hart. Pat Travers, Loverboy, 415. But that day, Ozzy Osbourne made his debut with Randy Rhoads in the Bay Area.
Oh my God.
Do you remember even seeing Randy Rhoads that day?
I do not.
This is one of my favorite photos from the Day on the Green.
That's an original Flying V.
Karina V, what is it, 59 or 58?
I think it was a 58.
And do you remember where you got that?
Yeah, there was a guy in Seattle who was a big fan, and I was between boyfriends at the time, and he was a guitar collector who said, let me take you on a date. And so I was like, okay, well, I was trying to be open to the idea of dating, which I've hardly, believe it or not, I've rarely ever really done that because I was always kind of inside the circle of the band, doing my life
Yeah.
and traveling. So I said, okay, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go on this date in Seattle at this real hoity-toity restaurant up on the hill overlooking the city. And afterwards, it had some wine. It's like, come see my guitar collection. It's like, I should have, never gone in there, but but I had to see the guitars anyway.
Yeah.
So he had that Flying V and a whole bunch of beautiful old Gretches, hollow bodies and semi hollow bodies, and just amazing, just priceless collection.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, 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 oh my God. And it was just like, can I touch that, And so after the date, after I sort of pried myself away and got out of there safely, he came, he reached out through my guitar tech at the time and said, I'm giving you these 3 or 4 guitars to give to Nancy.
Whoa.
And one of them was the Flying V.
Wow.
A gift.
Wow. $1 million gift if you had it now.
I can never accept this.
Yeah.
It's it's like a diamond or something. You can't just give that to someone.
Yeah.
There has to be an understanding. The guy said, well, just consider it a 100-year-old loan.
Wow.
100-year loan.
Yeah.
So I said, well, okay. Okay.
Did you ever give it back to him?
No.
No. You don't have it anymore, do you?
No.
God, it's so great, right? This is the day you played.
Rudy from Scorpions collects them.
I know, and so does Kirk Hammett from Metallica.
He's got that one.
He's got that, Rudy from Scorpions.
Mm-hmm.
Wow!
I figured it'd be a really good home.
Wow! How long ago did he get it? Years ago?
Oh, just only like 2-3
Oh,
years ago.
no shit.
Yeah.
You had it that long?
Oh, yeah, I did it, but it was, it was tucked away forever. You don't. That's the only time I ever took it on the road was in that picture.
No shit. This day on the green? This is the only time?
I was too scared to leave it sitting anywhere because it's just too priceless.
What about this outfit you wore that day? You looked incredible. You were wearing this green suit with a ruffled blouse, and you just were just far.
I designed it.
I wanted to ask you about this guitar. I always wanted to know. It's got the hearts on the fretboard, and is it a Hamer or a Dean? Or what is that? It looks like a Hamer to me.
It could have been a Hamer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Or it could be a Ibanez.
I don't think it was. It was either a Hamer.
I can't see the headstock on any of the photos, which sucks. And I remember you played this. It had hearts on the fretboard.
That's right.
It has the abalone inlay. And if you look, it has this crazy early tremolo,
Yeah.
Like it's not the Fender one, but it's
Jeez,
look at that.
That's crazy.
And then this photo's great here at Dan the Green.
That's a good one. That could be a Neil Preston photo.
My point, the reason I brought that up was that's how huge Heart was. So and then you kind of dripped away for a while, and in '85, Heart, the Capitol Records Heart record comes out. These Dreams, all these, these big hits. Were those outside writers, or did you guys write those? How did that happen?
Well, a lot of that time, at that part of the 80s, was all about rock bands like Aerosmith or Heart, covering or learning, recording outside songwriters material that were sort of in the stable of the upper echelon of LA songwriters. Yeah,
like what's his name that wrote all those hits for everybody? What's that guy's name?
Well, there was Diane Warren, wrote a whole bunch of hits for a bunch of bands. There was a few. There was a couple of teams of writers. There were some Canadian writers that we recorded some of their stuff. I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah, I get it.
But we were a little bit daunted because we'd always been the writers, the key writers, the main songwriters in the band, and now there was this whole other pressure. In order for us to push the record, you got to listen to all these demos of all these songwriters and choose 4.
Wow.
So we'd spend a few different times sitting for quite a long time, just listening through these cassette tapes on a cassette tape deck.
And this is a new record deal, so
But the deal to get the
in
deal,
order to get the deal,
you
we're
have
going
to
to let
do
you
some of
write
these
some songs, but you got to do
Yeah.
some of these songs here.
Exactly. So choose your favorites of this batch.
Wow.
So like 20, 25, 30 cassettes from all the stable of songwriters. And so, we knew Alone was a great song.
Yeah.
We knew What About Love was a beautiful song. A couple of the other ones, like, Who Will You Run To, stuff like that. But at the end of one of these listening sessions, Ron Nevison, our then producer, said, okay, we're done with this now. We've picked our songs. That's cool. But check out this other song that was co-written by Martin Page and Bernie Taupin, lyrics. And it was These Dreams.
Wow.
And it's like, no way is it it's like a heart song at all, but it's just a cool song. So check this out. I'm just like, oh, that song? Are you kidding me? That's my song. I need that song. I'm going to sing that song. And so nobody thought it would work.
Yeah.
And even Howard Kaufman at HK Management said, it's just going to confuse the fans if you're out there with a big lead vocal,
Yeah.
Which I always felt bad about, because I always felt like, why can't we be like Fleetwood Mac has Christine McVie sing some songs and she gets some attention for her singing,
Totally.
So it just didn't seem fair.
Was there tension with your sister? Did she think, like, why would you want to sing one, or was she down with it?
Well, I'd always had like one
Right.
per album, maybe two if I was really, really lucky. And I thought I could just interpret it. It was my kind of thing. So once we got a demo of it, during which I had a cold doing the mock vocal, I had a cold, which later we kept part of that because it's had the raspiness and all that other, the legend of These Dreams. But once it came together, people were like, hey, wait a minute, this is really working. And Anne started to kind of go, hey, wait a minute. I never thought this was going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, especially later when it came out and it was our first #1 song, she was a little bit like, damn it,
Wow.
She was a little,
Wow.
not that happy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be wild because now, here's the first #1 song is from the guitar player that sang
The guitar player that never sang all the leads, before. And the second one was, I think it was Alone from that. Not that long afterwards, but the fact I had the first one was really a thorn in her side.
Yeah. Now I can kind of see why there wasn't money later on because the songwriters got all the money, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the touring was the money,
Yeah, right.
And people, and we recorded was a lot of expense, and also the videos were a lot of expense.
Big money. That These Dreams video is
That's like
it's massive.
The cast
it's like
of Ben
a film.
Hur, like yes, and same with What About Love, or whichever one it was that had the anvil and the fire and the walking in on the arms of the Sherpas, whatever. Anyway,
Anybody famous direct those?
Well, These Dreams was Jeff Stein.
Yeah.
Who's done a whole bunch of amazing stuff.
Because, Fincher did early on. He did MTV videos.
That's
when you
true.
get into, stuff like that, you find out later.
Yeah, I think Jeff Stein went on to do other film projects that were really nice, good. He did The Kids Are All Right.
Oh, yeah.
And different stuff. But no big directors, I guess, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my early, of course, favorite films is Fast Times, and of course,
it's really a good one.
Were you dating Cameron at the time that you did the cameo?
Yeah.
Is that why you were? I was always wondering.
I was just his brand new girlfriend, kind of at the time.
How'd you guys meet?
Well, previously I'd sort of been going out with guys in the band, which was really a bad idea.
Yeah.
Really bad. Speaking of Fleetwood Mac, not a good plan.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was proximity and travel and
it's all you can
all
do.
Those things.
You're working nonstop.
Yeah.
And you're loaded up in hotel rooms, and you're traveling, and you're lonely, and it happens.
It's like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And So my dear friend Kelly Curtis, after I broke up with the drummer, after the guitar player, then the drummer.
Yeah. It's so rock and
So
roll.
bad.
So rock and roll. Now, you date the drummer or the guitar player and then the drummer, and they're still in the band?
They're still in the band.
Oh, shit.
But not for long.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Oh, that's how Howard Leese got in the band. You
Well, no,
guys
he'd
broke
already
up?
been in there.
Oh, I got you. I was going to say.
But it was just a bad idea to have a relationship with the guitar player to begin with. And then I broke it up with him because I really needed to. And we just kept playing. But I really kind of had a thing for the drummer. And so then even when we were all playing in the same band with Howard and everybody, I started going out with the drummer. And then Roger flipped out. And then Roger got fired. And then other people got fired. It just was a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
Kelly Curtis introduces you?
Kelly Curtis, but
Who's the Pearl Jam manager,
he
right?
still is managing Pearl Jam.
Right.
He worked for Hart for many years first.
Oh, wow.
He was our lackey, and then he was our first publicist, and then he was, kind of our manager guy, and then he fell in love with the Wardrobe Girl, and that went to hell in a handbasket. So that's
Yeah.
the story of rock and roll. It's like too many Quaaludes.
Yeah.
But so he and Neil Preston, the rock photographer,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
who's a friend, a longtime roommate at that point with Cameron, and had traveled as a journalist and photographer team for Rolling Stone for years and years together. Kelly and Neil Preston sort of got their heads together and said, she needs to meet Cameron.
Wow.
Nancy should meet and go out with Cameron. So I said, sure. He's a smart, funny guy. He's a starving writer, trying to develop a script off a book called Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Wow. The one he sneaks into the high school and riots.
Which he did.
I know, which is unbelievable, that story.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing that now? Like, you'd go to jail. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't, but the
Yeah.
principal that let him sneak in there for a year,
That's probably right.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you can't have like a
Yeah.
person
An
that's not a
eavesdropper.
minor.
Right.
It's
recording shit in the bathroom.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the school
right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and writing stuff down furiously. But and so we got on really swimmingly, and had really a lot of fun. In the first blush of our romance, and so I got to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And it was pretty funny because I was like, oh, I have to get up early if I really want to do this. I really have to get up early, and it's like, why don't you do more movie roles? It's like, you have to get up early. I can't do it.
You've been a rock and roll.
I'm a
all your
night
life.
worker.
Yeah.
So,
I think that Almost Famous, and I've said this over and over because I played music all
that's
my
a great
life.
movie.
I played music all my life. And you played music all your
Yeah.
life. When I watched the film, when I went in and I sat down and I watched the film, I've seen tons of music movies in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically 3/4 into the movie, I said, this movie has not taken the bullshit turn. I kept
Right.
waiting for the
Right.
scene where it was like, nah.
Yeah,
This-
inauthentic.
It never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read deep into it, I became obsessed with the film.
Yeah.
I found out why. Not only was Cameron knew what the hell he was talking about,
Yeah.
but you were in the back of it, and Peter Frampton, as far as rock school.
Yeah.
But it came down to everything was right. Even the clothing,
right.
it was into that old North Beach leathers.
That's right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Did you?
Betsy Hyman was the wardrobe on that. She's done amazing work all the way through.
When you were working with the band and stuff, did you write Fever Dog?
Yeah.
You wrote Fever Dog.
Yeah, I kind of wrote it with Cameron actually too. We were at a beach house, like vacationing, but like we never really vacationed. We always worked somehow, and I had some gear there, and it was just like, let's do something like mid-level, mediocre rock.
It definitely had a free feeling to it, right?
Yes.
Free.
sort of a Free meets Allman Brothers
Yeah.
type thing. So, those are those, kind of chord structures that it's just not what you play, it's the way how you play them.
Yeah.
And, so I actually have played Fever Dog a couple of times with Heart.
Really?
And sang it a few times.
Really?
Out there, yeah. Because after Almost Famous came out, people really took to that song, and it was funny to me,
This song's so great.
It's funny. I mean, it's intentionally kind of a funny takeoff, but it sort of works anyway.
How hard was it to get those guys to really look authentic? Because they looked so. They actually were great, man. As far as the movements and
they really were.
Even the way they carried themselves and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a lot of rock
did
and roll feel.
You probably maybe read this, but with me and Peter Frampton and Cameron in this kind of rehearsal space, we played for Billy Crudup, who didn't really play then. Guitar, we had to, here's how you hold a guitar. Here's how you slouch when you hold a guitar. Here's this live footage of, Led Zeppelin. Here's this live footage of The Who.
Yeah.
Here's this other live footage of Free. Here's this, and check the body language and just hold the guitar, walk around with it all day, every day, and learn these couple of little bits and pieces on the guitar so that when it shows, you can show your hands at least enough so it looks like you're actually playing that particular lead part. It's just so, you can get away with it without the bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Because almost every other rock, based film is just, you're right, it goes off the rail and you're like, oh no, that's not.
I know. This
Yeah.
one doesn't.
It doesn't.
And it's a classic.
I love that one.
It's
Yeah.
a classic.
I think it's the best. Oh, and incidentally, you probably saw there was an announcement a couple of days back that Cameron's working on a Broadway musical for Almost Famous.
I did read that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible, right?
Yeah, he shared with me a couple little bits and pieces of their some of their rehearsals with song going on, and the guy that's working on the music looks like he's going to do a really cool job.
Wow.
Very Elton John-ish,
Right.
stylistically, for those songs that they're putting together. So it's nice.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
man. Let's get a little bit into Lane Staley and all the guys up there. You were in Seattle during that whole, of
Yeah.
course, Cameron did singles.
Yeah.
Which and that whole grunge thing was busting out.
Yeah.
Do you remember like kind of how you start hanging around those guys? Is it from that film or what happens?
No, it was before that film actually came out or happened, before they even started filming. But we were spending a lot of time in Seattle at the time. Cameron was working on scripts. And I used to have a farm up there. And we were friends of Kelly Curtis, who was kind of, hooked into all those bands and the scene there.
Yeah.
Seattle guy as well. And Susan Silver. We were all just kind of, we came back from the end of the 80s kind of going, oh, man, what happened to us in the 80s? We kind of had to regroup a lot and just kind of get back to the beginning again. And
Heart, the band, you mean?
yeah, just the beginning of where we started as far as, what we wanted out of it. And so that's right when Andrew Woods OD'd.
Wow.
And we were already kind of back in Seattle. And so we heard the call to come to a big kind of a memorial at somebody's house for Andrew. And I think it was Kelly's house. I'm not sure if it was Kelly's house. But, so we brought our dogs along to cheer people up. And it was the whole Seattle scene was there. It was Cornell and Lane and all the guys from Alice. And everybody was, in shock.
Yeah.
And everybody just had to kind of do their crying and their laughing. And that's when we got closer to those guys initially. And then after that, we all kind of hung out more, sometimes at Ann's house, sometimes at my farmhouse, or down in Seattle at Kelly's or somebody's house there, and just like hanging out, trying to play guitars. Jerry Cantrell would be like, okay, how do you do the beginning of Mistral Wind, you know?
Yeah.
And it was so perfect because that's the kind of guitar he loves, and he does so well. It's
Yeah.
like the dissonant stuff. The new album they did is so cool.
It's great, right?
Great, yeah.
I went on
Yeah.
tour with him last year, opening as a comedian.
You did?
2 weeks.
Oh,
It was
no,
wild.
I didn't
it was
know
like
that.
a dream because
Michael Inez was in our band for
I know
for years.
I know. Also,
Before they
Gilby during that time.
Gilby Clark was in Heart for a while.
I remember seeing you guys at the
Yeah.
Sierra Mountain Winery.
Oh, God, I remember that, too.
Remember that place with
I
the
do.
crazy crooked road up there?
Yeah, the historic mountain winery.
Yeah.
Near San Francisco? that
Yep,
one?
exactly. Out there by
Yeah.
Neil Young Land.
Well, they
yeah.
have ghosts up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
yeah. So you got pretty tight with those guys, though, you know?
Yeah, we ended up at parties and, you know, drinking and drugging a little bit together.
Yeah.
But we were never kind of as bad off as we should. I mean, as a respectable rock person should have been. But we were always too scared to not, you know, show
Yeah.
up for work on
Right.
time. So we were pretty cool with our intake.
Did you guys do some drugs? It never seemed like what was it, just cocaine? Like it's such a 70s thing.
Well, not really in the 80s. It was more the cocaine time for us.
Wow.
We were late bloomers.
Yeah.
When it was like big sporting events, and the Heart album was the biggest album we'd ever had.
Huge.
And it was so huge, and the places were so huge, and it was hard to just relate to who we had started out being. And I know that Anne, in particular, started to get real, like stage fright, because the pressure was almost too big, and especially if you're a little paranoid because you've been doing some coke.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, of course.
We never missed a gig, but we were a little hurting a few times when we went out on stage.
Yeah.
But you got to go through those. I guess that's the proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
And you make it through, and then you don't. Then you learn how to not do that.
That's amazing. I want to ask you a couple more things, and I'll get out of your hair. You did. I always wanted to talk to somebody. I haven't had anybody on the show that played Cal Jam. You played Cal Jam in '78.
Yeah.
One of the biggest concerts besides Us Festival and Woodstock.
Yeah.
And, those kind of
I
things.
know.
Cal Jam was in Ontario.
Yeah.
And the bill was Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, Santana, Mahogany Rush,
All right.
Frank Marino. What a god,
Wow,
huh?
right?
Yeah. And then, Heart. Do you remember that day at all? Because that's a famous concert.
That is an unforgettable day. It's unforgettable. It was the biggest sea of people I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Because I've been to all kinds of shows before and big kind of festival, outdoor things in parks or whatever. But this was like, you couldn't see the end of the people. There was a relay tower.
Yeah.
And then another relay tower and beyond. And people like climbing up trees on the sides and trying to get over fences. And just like literally probably a very dangerous place to play.
Yeah.
Because that didn't have a lot of security so far at that point in place. And
Not at
so-
all back then.
Not at all.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
I know.
And, there were probably some injuries, and there were probably some ODs, or there was probably a lot of paramedic activity
Yep.
in those kind of places outside under the hot sun.
Yeah.
And, spraying with hoses and all that type of stuff. And the stage was really big. And it was so cool to be there.
Yeah.
It was just like, this is something for the grandkids, like
78 is like the
Yeah.
mighty behemoth of 70s rock.
it's really true. You couldn't say it better than that.
Man. I mean, you got
Yeah.
Dream On, Sweet Emotion, all these
Yeah.
radio hits. Ted's got Cat
Yeah.
Scratch Fever, Wang Dang,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
I ran into Ted somewhere in the backstage area, I guess, of one of those places, but he was so like he was such a kind of a lechy guy. I was like, no.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that's why he wears the coon tail or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he really struck me the wrong way. But you know, I like most people.
Yeah.
I can't say I don't like a lot of people either. So, but he struck me really the sideways. I was like, what? Because I was a pretty lady, and I just didn't like to be thought of that way.
Yeah.
I dare to be a Marine Corps brat, you know, when I feel like I deserve respect, equal respect by any person or any person. So, yeah. Anyway, but what a day. And just, yeah, like, you could never see the end of that.
How about this next one you do? You did Cotton Bowl, the Dallas, that Cotton Bowl one. And here's the bill. Same year, 100,000 people.
Right.
That's what, for real. 100,000 people. Aerosmith, Van Halen, Ted Nugent, Journey, Frank Marino, Head East, and Heart. You remember that show?
What, in Boston?
No.
Huge outside in
Dallas.
Oh, Dallas.
Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl in Dallas.
Yeah.
I'm sure I do, but I might, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I read that you guys played that. Maybe you didn't play it, you know?
No, I think we did. We played a bunch of those huge ones.
Yeah, huge.
I think that Cal Jam was the first.
Yeah,
and
Cal
that's what
Jam.
you remember the most.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, those huge, you know, Cotton Bowl type, or the Boston, the one we did with Boston.
The Boston Tea Party one?
Tea Party one. Yeah. Huge. I think it was about another 100,000 people.
It's crazy how big rock was, right?
Yeah, and it was really cool to see it, though, because people were largely pretty well behaved and there for the music. And bands like Boston, that you hear them sounding really good and really big out in those huge outdoor places.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was like an achievement of sound systems, for one thing.
God, right?
You know, the Beatles didn't have monitors. You know?
That's what I said. They played through the stadium horn system.
Yeah.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
That's right. That's what they did.
It's really crazy. You know, like you guys headlined the Day on the Green in '81.
Right.
In '81, you're big, but really you're big in '79. You know. But your radio hits are so big all the way to '81. There you are playing 65,000.
Yeah, right.
But I really feel that also people were just like, we're going to a rock concert Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Heart. It's going to be Blue Oyster Cult. It's going to be Pat Travers. There was a time I was talking about where Robin Trower and Rick Derringer sold out Oakland Coliseum, 65,000.
Wow.
Couple guitar guys, you know?
Right.
It's wild to think.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's before it all got straight onto our little cell phones and before it's in your living room.
Yeah.
It's all accessible, you know. So it was a truly...
You had to go out.
You had to go get it. You had to go out, drive your car, and go find your big rock experience. And inside of a atmosphere where everyone's there for the same reason. So there was a lot of those hair-raising, inspiring moments, you know, that everyone would all have simultaneously as a group of you know, audience members. The times I went to see Zeppelin or Elton John as a fan, you know, I'd just get there no matter hook or by crook. If I had to borrow $20 for gas,
totally,
I would just get there, you know, buy a scalp ticket. I don't care, you know.
Didn't even matter how you were getting home either.
No, you didn't even think about getting home.
Not at all.
You spent all your money on the ticket.
Yeah, ticket and a T-shirt or whatever, and then you're like, oh, we got to get home.
But it was like a call to church.
Yeah,
you know,
it really was,
and it was a human experience among music people.
Yeah.
Including the bands. So, you know, you'd see those people out there just digging your songs. And you're like, yeah, yes, we're here, we're doing this, and they hear us in heaven.
Yeah. After that Kennedy honors, did those guys come talk to you and say, "Wow"?
Yeah.
What did they say?
They were each really wonderful. Jimmy Page first came by.
First time meeting them?
No, but first time to really say hello,
Yeah.
But we were at the dinner after, and they came over to us, and so Jimmy said they got up off out of their table and walked over to say thanks to us, and Jimmy was like, "Oh man, you played that so good, oh, great," and I was like, "It's coming from you? Oh my God," as I'm just a super fan,
Yeah,
and gotta stay a fan, always a fan.
100%.
Yeah, and then Robert was like, you guys, every time I hear somebody start that song, and I just cringe, and I'm just die because I know they're just gonna murder the song, and it's gonna be terrible, but I love the way you guys did that song. And we were like, yes, thank you. And John Paul Jones too was like, way to play it. That was beautiful.
It was fire.
Didn't go too fast, weren't too we were nervous as hell, but
yeah.
Yeah,
because they're looking down on you.
We couldn't see them.
You couldn't see them?
No.
Oh, good.
We saw them after the edit was completed.
Oh, you can't see them, so when you're playing.
Yeah, they weren't really lit for us to see that, which would have been harder if you'd been able to see them up in the balcony with, the president, a bunch of dignitaries, Led Zeppelin, whatever, Yo-Yo Ma, all these people. But yeah, we saw it when we finally did see it. It was like, Jesus Christ, that was powerful.
Yeah, really. Well, it was
Kennedy Center people. They know what they're doing too.
Yeah, it was a moment, man. I mean, Robert Plant cries. Yes. I was crying because of that. I was like, oh God, he's so tore up from how great that was,
Right, and all the reasons, the song itself, he probably felt like he was hearing it again in a new, meaningful way.
Yeah.
But then also, I think with John Bonham's son on drums, Jason, and then the bowler hats and just all those levels and reveals of the way the song plays out.
So good.
Even in its slightly edited form.
Is it edited?
Yeah. The Kennedy Center version is slightly edited.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because
it's television.
Yeah, they cut, exactly.
But they edit even that. They did it so well that you don't really notice it.
Yeah.
There's more to see than to listen for.
I can't thank you enough for doing the show.
So fun, D.
I was trying to get you on for a couple years.
Yeah.
Because you and Bill Burr did a thing together.
We sure did.
And I was like, I got to get her on, Are you a comedy fan?
Huge.
Yeah? Who are you into?
What's his name? Bo, who does the keyboards and sings too. Burnham.
Oh, yeah.
Burnham.
Oh, yeah.
He's so funny.
And you watch Netflix specials and stuff?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Stand up. It's got to be the most difficult stage thing you can do, I think.
It's insane.
I bet.
It's a piece of lunacy.
Yeah, but you have to be ready to just be up there by yourself.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that's just like a remarkably tough thing to do, and I applaud you wholeheartedly.
And also, look, you can play Barracuda for the rest of your life, and people are happy. If I went out and did a joke from 5 years ago, every time I came to town, they'd be like, "Oh, he did this one before."
Did this last time,
even though it was your hit joke from the last comedy special. They're like, and then he was great, but then he went into the old
same
stuff.
material again.
Oh man, right?
That's true. I never thought of that either.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing the show, and I really hope this heart thing happens.
I do too. I've got my hopes up about it, and I think it would just be a beautiful way to serve the legacy, right, to do the legacy right.
what would you do for band members? Would you just audition some new guys, or would?
Well, it would be. Well, she's got some players she loves. I've got some players I love. There are two different bands right now.
Yeah, Chris. Would Chris be in?
I would love to have Chris in. That's kind of part of the discussions right now.
What about Howard? Would he ever be in the band again?
I don't know. I mean,
can you imagine that if you were out there with like kind of like that?
I don't know. You know, if I bring a guitar player in with me, which I request to do, if I couldn't, I have like a short list.
Yeah.
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 So I don't know but Howard's on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You talked to Howard?
We run into him now and then.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. I saw him in Vegas. He was playing in that rock thing, you know?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know he's doing that.
Yeah. I was trying to get him on the show. Got the Heisman.
Oh, no, really?
Wow, those guys were getting ready to go on vacation the next day after like a 3-week run. It was
yeah. Got to get home. Yeah,
that'd be amazing. Well, hopefully, if it happens, what would it be, the summer?
Yes, it'd be probably late spring into the summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for having me at your house.
Of course.
And your
Glad
dog.
You came and met my dog.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And you got to come see some comedy sometime.
Love to do that.
Get down to the Comedy Store.
Yeah. Sorry.
On a night.
Yeah. Sorry about the mix-up in the schedule.
Oh,
but
don't worry about it.
I'll come there next time.
Yeah. Just come in. And Burr's there a lot. So come down and see Bill and I and have a night of comedy.
Fantastic.
The place is so rock and roll, you know?
I am there.
All right.
Sounds really good.
Thank you so much for doing the show. There you guys go. Don't forget, go check out all the Heart music on iTunes. It's all on there, and it's all incredible. And if you've never heard the band, which a lot of people, you know, are constantly
starting to come to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, it's going to blow your mind. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. See you later.